Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. Let me tell you a story that happened a few years back, around 2018 or so. I decided to volunteer at the local fire department, something I did for almost a decade. The training process was intense. 3 months of fire training with classes twice a week and all day on Saturdays, followed by another 3 months of EMT training. It was no joke. After being there for a couple of years, they asked me to help train some fresh recruits. One of the lieutenants overseeing the academy was Jessica, a tough-as-nails woman in her 40s who wouldn't take crap from anyone. When she was in drill instructor mode, she could make grown men quiver, but off-duty, she was kind and generous, often baking treats for the crew. In this particular batch of rookies, there was this cocky kid, let's call him Zach. During training, Zach acted like he was the next great American firefighting hero, like he was destined to star in some cheesy action flick. His performance was decent, but far from spectacular. Anyway, he ended up getting assigned to Jessica's station, a relatively quiet house. A few months in, Jessica stopped by my station one evening with a massive 6-layer cake from Claim Jumper. She explained that she had treated her entire crew to a night out at the restaurant, which must have cost a pretty penny. They had demolished the first 2 layers, so she brought us the remaining 4 to enjoy. Back then, Facebook was the big social media platform, and I decided to connect with some colleagues. That's when I stumbled upon Zach's profile and saw photos from their Claim Jumper outing. In the comments, Zach was bragging about intentionally ordering the most expensive items, since Jessica was footing the bill, calling her stupid for allowing him to take advantage like that. I was livid at his ungrateful, selfish attitude toward Jessica's kindness, but it got worse. His profile was filled with videos and memes portraying him as some courageous firefighting badass, bragging about running into burning buildings like a hero. Keep in mind, this was a guy who had just graduated the academy a few months prior and hadn't even started EMT school yet. All he had done was carry gear for the real firefighters. That's when I decided to teach him a lesson. I printed out copies of his Facebook posts, including the comments about Jessica, and made multiple copies. We still used pagers back then, so I sent an anonymous text blast to everyone in the department, attaching Zach's social media evidence and exposing how he had treated the lieutenant. Within an hour, Zach had scrubbed his Facebook clean, deleting posts and photos. A couple of days later, he nuked his entire account. Good thing I made all those hard copies. Shortly after, Zach stopped showing up for his volunteer shifts. A few weeks later, word spread that he had quit the department altogether. I later confessed to Jessica that I was the one who sent out that page exposing Zach's behavior. She thanked me for standing up for her and seemed genuinely hurt by his actions, though she quickly bounced back to her usual tough self. Last I heard, she ended up marrying a fire chief who also helped with the academy training. I lost touch with Jessica, but I hope she's doing well. She was one hell of a firefighter and deserved far better than that disrespectful rookie punk. The next one is an entitled people story. Moving to my new house with a pool was a dream come true. I had worked hard to be able to afford this place, and the refreshing pool in the backyard made it worth every penny. The first couple of weeks were peaceful. I swam to my heart's content and hosted a few small get-togethers for friends and family. That tranquility was shattered when my new neighbor Karen moved in next door. From day one, there was tension. Karen made snide comments about my landscaping choices and complained that my music was too loud, even though I kept it at a very reasonable volume. I tried to ignore her negativity and be a good neighbor, even welcoming her with a homemade casserole when she first arrived. She barely muttered a thank you before shutting the door in my face. Well, so much for Southern hospitality. Over the next few weeks, Karen became more and more entitled. She would lean over the fence separating our properties and make demands like telling me to switch off my backyard spotlights because they bothered her. One weekend, I was hosting a family BBQ, and Karen came storming over, insisting we turn down our music and stop the racket, even though it was the middle of the day. When I politely refused, she threatened to call the cops for noise disturbance. My poor grandma was so flustered she spilled her fruit punch. What kind of person tries to ruin a family gathering like that? The final straw came on a hot summer day when I was cooling off with a swim in my pool. I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye and turned to see Karen lounging on a pool float, drifting lazily around my pool. I hurriedly got out, dripping water across the deck. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I asked, trying to remain calm. "Oh, I'm just taking a quick dip since it's so hot out," Karen replied casually. "This is my private property. You can't just use my pool whenever you feel like it," I stated firmly. Karen scoffed. "Don't be so selfish. I'm your neighbor, so I have every right to swim here too." I was flabbergasted. "You don't own this pool." "I do. You need to get out of my backyard immediately." Karen glared at me menacingly. "How dare you speak to me that way? I'll have you know my ex-husband was a lawyer so I could sue you if I wanted to. But I'm feeling gracious today, so I'll let it slide if you apologize." By this point, I was seeing red. The audacity and entitlement was mind-boggling. I repeated my demand for her to leave, only for Karen to lounge back with an exaggerated sigh. "Fine. Overreact much? I'm going." She took her sweet time getting out, making a big show of slowly drying herself off. I resisted the urge to shove her smug face into the pool. The minute she was dressed, I escorted her firmly by the arm to the gate and slammed it shut behind her. I made sure to lock it securely in case she tried to pull this stunt again. Later that day, I installed video cameras around the property and erected a tall fence around my backyard. I hoped that would be the end of it, but Karen wasn't done tormenting me. The very next morning, I was sipping coffee in my kitchen when movement on the camera feed caught my attention. I hastily put down my mug, spilling some coffee in my rush to get to the backyard. Throwing open the back door, I was met with the sight of Karen lounging in a beach chair next to my pool. She had brought magazines and a little table with snacks, making herself right at home.
"Get out! You have no right to be here!" I yelled.
"You don't own this pool, you greedy snob," Karen shot back. "The homeowners association gave me full access, so I'll swim whenever I damn well please. Maybe I'll invite some friends over later for a pool party. That should teach you to share." I saw red. Storming over to her, I ripped away the magazine she was leisurely perusing. "I have repeatedly told you not to trespass on my property. I am calling the police right now and having you arrested," I shouted, hands shaking with anger. Karen paled a little but tried to look nonchalant. "On what grounds? You have no proof. I know my rights." I gave her a superior smirk. "That's where you're wrong. My security cameras caught everything, and I installed no trespassing signs. The cops will be very interested in the footage." Karen's defiant expression faltered. She seemed to debate arguing further, but thought better of it. Muttering under her breath, she gathered her things and left in a huff. True to my word, I called the local police department and showed the officers the camera footage documenting Karen's repeated trespassing and harassment over the pool. They were shocked that a seemingly normal woman would behave so irrationally over something that clearly wasn't hers. One officer accompanied me to Karen's house to get her side of the story. Of course, she denied everything and accused me of editing the footage to frame her. But the confident gleam in her eye told me she knew she was cornered. Her cocky demeanor faded quickly when the cops informed her she was under arrest for trespassing. Karen turned pale. "You can't do that! I know my rights!" she screeched. "Ma'am, the evidence clearly shows you trespassing on private property after being told to leave multiple times," the officer replied calmly. Seeing her being handcuffed and led away was incredibly satisfying after all the stress she had caused. At the station, Karen was unsurprisingly uncooperative, demanding to see a lawyer and ranting about lawsuits. But her threats were empty. With the undeniable video proof, there was nothing she could do to defend her actions. Karen ended up being charged with trespassing and harassment. She tried to fight the charges in court, but the video footage ensured she was found guilty. She received a hefty fine and was sentenced to 6 months probation, during which she is banned from contacting me or coming anywhere near my property. She also has to attend anger management classes. I considered filing a restraining order as well, but decided the criminal charges were satisfactory for now. I haven't had any issues since, though I still keep my security system running just in case. The Homeowners Association also sent Karen an official notice barring her from any community pools or facilities. It's been peaceful and Karen-free in my neighborhood ever since. I can finally relax and enjoy my pool without worrying about entitled trespassers. My grandma loves having pool parties here too. She still gets a bit jumpy if anyone mentions lawyers, but some fruit punch and relaxing floats in the pool help calm her nerves. This experience taught me to stand up for myself against bullies like Karen. In the end, justice was served along with a healthy dose of karma. Karen won't be barging into anyone's backyard anytime soon. The next one is a petty revenge story. I want to start with I love dogs. I had dogs 80% of my life. I love dogs. I just don't currently have a dog. Okay, with that in mind, here is my story. I just started living in this nice suburb at the beginning of this year. It is a quiet area, and my girlfriend and I really like it here. But there is a neighborhood Karen. She is your stereotypical retired woman just trying to find something to do with her day. And what she does is walk around the area complaining. Her complaints can be anything about anything, and most of the time she leaves a note on people's mailboxes. I have gotten many of these. Things like, your grass is too long or your car is dirty SD. But when it comes to dogs, she loves to call either the police or code enforcement. A co-worker or friend of mine lives close by, and Karen has called the police or whoever on his dog many times. There have even been a few fines handed out, for things like dog at large. So sometimes you choose a plan, and sometimes a plan chooses you. In mid-October, I was shopping with my brain firmly in low power mode, and I see the shelf of warning signs including beware of large dog. The word large caught my eye and got my brain moving. Thoughts like, if I put this up, can I fool her? And, if I do this, will I be a neighborhood hero? In the end, I decided not all heroes wear capes and put up the signs in front of my house. It took a few days for me to see Karen looking at my signs and then start staring at my house. Or at least it took me a while to see her kinda stalking my home. Some days she is kinda subtle, and some say she kinda does a wander thing where she is pretty much pacing the area. About 3 weeks after putting up the signs, I was shopping at my local Goodwill because I am classy like that, and I saw a 3-foot dog chain for $2. I was hatching my plan before I even had it in my hand. So there was a chain but no collar, and clearly I needed a big collar. I couldn't find a big collar, but I did find a woman's belt. It's thick with square studs on it, so it kinda looks like a collar for a large dog, or maybe a small horse. I hope no one saw me on my drive home. I had the most evil smile on my face the whole time. So the collar and chain are hung by the door for when I would need them. My girlfriend has been rolling her eyes at me through all of this, but she has put up with weirder things from me, so she is fine. So after 4 days on the hook, I see Karen down the street. I race for the door and grab the collar with the manic glee of child at Christmas. When Karen walks by, she see me holding this monster collar, yelling, "Baskerville! Baskerville, come here, boy." Followed by lots of whistling and wandering around looking behind my car, things like that. Karen sees this and her eyes go wide, with pure but silent terror. I started to smile, so I used my hands to cup over my mouth and kept calling for Baskerville and walked behind my house. I was holding in my laughter so hard I may have gotten a hernia, but if I did, it was worth it. I have done this same thing 5 times in the last few weeks, and it is still as fun as the first time. I am pretty sure I have wasted 14 afternoons of this woman's life. She has spent so much time trying to catch my beloved Baskerville at something she can call the cops on. So far, no one has come to my house like a cop or whatever, and I am pretty sure Karen has caught on to what I am doing. But I only spent $20 on the signs and collar rock belt, so I feel like I got my money's worth. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Background. I worked for an internet service provider in Australia called .net. We were at the time one of the biggest providers, but crucially, we did not own our own ADSL1 network, and we only on-sold the ADSL1 service from the biggest provider in the country, Telstra. We also had a policy that an ongoing issue should have a case owner, and I was the case owner for this, which is why I got multiple calls about it. Act 1. A wild Karen appears. I get a call from a Karen. While doing an ID check, she provides me her age. And of course, she's in her 40s. Her internet went down. I look at the account and I can see she's got on-sold Telstra service. One thing catches my eye. Although there are thousands of exchanges, central places your connection goes to, shared by multiple suburbs in the country, and you can't possibly know them all. I know the one she is on because a few weeks earlier, a friend was considering buying a house in the area, and I looked at this one and found that there are no free ports, and thus it is impossible to get a new service connected. The waiting list for a new connection was 2.5 years, at least. So I ask her to do the troubleshooting steps, and she says she does, but I suspect she's just telling me she is doing it to make me go away. Whatever, nothing I can do about that. We exhaust all the troubleshooting, and I tell her there appears to be a line fault. I can send out a technician, but it will take 3 to 5 working days, and if there is actually nothing wrong with the line, she will be charged $199 plus $40. Numbers might be wrong, it was a while back, but it was at least $200 for every 15 minutes of work to cover the technician's time. I play her the disclaimer that outlines this, and she says, "Yeah, I accept," on the recording. I lodge a fault. Act 2. The fault in our loop. She calls after 2 days, sounding annoyed things are still offline. I tell her it hasn't been 5 days. She hangs up. On the 5th day, I get the technician's report saying, "No fault found." The next day she calls. Karen, "So, my connection is still offline. It has been 5 days. What's happening?" Me, "Well, the technician attended the fault and his report says no fault found." Karen, "What? That's bullcrap. The internet is clearly down and you need to fix it." Me, "I don't doubt that the internet is offline, but the fault does not appear to lie within our area of responsibility. I would suggest you check your local equipment." Karen, "That's not true. My son is an IT guy, and the router is brand new." Me, "Okay, well, I can't speak for the state of your equipment, but our equipment appears to be in working order. Incidentally, I just want to make sure to give you a heads up that we will be placing an incorrect call-out fee on your next invoice." Karen, "You're lying to me. I didn't see any technicians, and now you want to charge me over $200 based on your lies. I won't let that happen." Me, "I assure you, the technician attended the reported fault. However, you did not see them because they probably only went to the exchange, which is approximately 4 kilometers away from you." Karen, "You're lying to me. I am not paying the fee. What can I do now?" Me, "Well, if you are adamant that your equipment is not at fault, your only option is to file another fault and send the tech out again. It is fairly rare, but it is not impossible the technician was wrong." Karen, "And then you'll pretend you sent the tech and charge me another incorrect call-out fee." Me, "We will most definitely send out another tech, but yes, it is very likely to come back as another NFF, and in that case, a further fee is likely." Karen, "That's bullcrap. I have been with you for 5+ years, and this is how you treat me. Cancel my service now. I will go to your competitors. They'll want my money." Me, "Ma'am, the exchange you're connected to only has Telstra ports and is at 100% utilization. If I cancel your service, you will lose your spot. It is unlikely any of our competitors will be able to provide you any service at all. You should just transfer your service to the next provider, so-called churn. This will allow her to keep her spot." Karen, "Don't you tell me what to do, you lying sack of crap. You will cancel my service now, or I will do everything in my power to have you fired." Now I'm pissed off myself. It's a crap situation, but there's no need to take it out on me. I'm trying to help her. And that's her response? Engage malicious compliance. Me, "Okay, ma'am. Hold on for a moment. I am canceling your service." Me, "Okay, cancellation processed. Let me just remind you that the incorrect call-out fee is still due." Karen, "You won't see a cent of that." Me, "Noted, but the amount is over the collections threshold, so we will send you to collections." Karen. Act 3. The joys of the waiting list. About a month later, I get a request to transfer to me. It's Karen. I take a moment to catch up on her file, and the service is canceled and fee invoiced. I run a quick service qualification on her line, and I can see that our service, so-called codes, have dropped off, and there are no other codes on her line. She did not manage to get connected with anyone. Karen. Hello. I think I spoke to you last time. Me. Yes, you did. Karen. My internet is still down and you are still charging me for the fee. I need you to get rid of it. Me. I cannot do that. The charge is valid. Karen. Well, I can't pay it. You've ruined my business. I was operating an e-commerce business and that won't be possible anytime soon. Running a business over residential connection is a breach of customer service agreement, but I let that slide. Me. I'm sorry for your predicament, but the fee stands. Karen. I'll do you a deal. If you reconnect my service, I will pay the fee. Me. I can probably sign you up again, even though you're behind on payment, but I was not lying to you when I told you that there are no ports on your exchange. It is very unlikely you would get a port. They are all in use. Did you try with our competitors as you said you would? Karen. I did. None of them would even try signing me up because they told me they couldn't provide a service. Me. We are in the same situation. Karen. Why can't you just give me back my old port? Me. Because it was given to the first person on the waiting list. Karen. And how long does the waiting list take? Me. Last I checked, more than 2 years. Karen. This is ridiculous. I'm going to TIO, Telecommunications Industry Ombudsman. Me. You may do so, as is your right, but to be very clear, we will substantiate the validity of our fee. Karen. Whatever. Click. Conclusion. She did in fact file a complaint with TIO, and I handed her case over to a TIO complaint specialist. I made sure to point out that she was breaching TOS with business over residential service. TIO obviously ruled in our favor, and we were allowed to send her to actual collections. Before I left the company, about a year and a half later, I caught up on her file, and she had filed a loss of business claim, which was summarily closed because residential connections have no service level agreement. The last contact was her speaking to our credit team, asking them to make sure they mark her debt as paid with our collections people and make sure this is reflected on her credit rating. There were still no codes on her line. It is quite unlikely she got any reasonably priced service connected for at least 2 years, realistically longer as demand only ever went up. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.